Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hometown Heroes Podcast. Today, I'm with Guy Coviello of the Youngstown Warren Regional Chamber. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Thank you. So, in your younger years, you were a graduate of Kennedy. You kind of dipped your feet into the water of journalism and sports broadcasting, going to the Tribune during college and being the editor there. How did that prepare you for your role as president and CEO of the chamber and speaking to public and local officials and talking to business leaders? How did that prepare you for your job?
I think the best way to put that is that journalism provides a skill set that's very transferable to almost anything that you might choose to do.
Right.
And there are some studies that will show that. There's an interesting book from way back called, I think it's called Journalism Kids Do Better. And there are some other studies that support it, but the skills that you have to master to be a good journalist at any point, whether it's high school, college, or professional, um, you're going to use those skills in every profession. So good written communication, which is the obvious one, but people don't realize the verbal communication that's involved with being a good journalist, asking probing questions, cultivating sources to willingly give you information, um, and taking complex data and boiling it down to something that somebody can read very easily, very quickly, distilling it into a very short, concise narrative. All those things apply all across the spectrum. So um, I always look for journalists. I look for two things when I'm hiring: journalists and athletes. Those are two backgrounds that provide a lot of skill sets transferable to any profession.
Last week, in our first episode of the season, we interviewed Jim Coates, and he talked about how, when he's looking for hiring people, he looks for athletes. So that's funny that you said that.
Yeah, and he's done a great job. Look at how much his business has grown. And you can't grow your business without having good people. So he's obviously doing something right in terms of finding talent.
Right. So for those that don't know of the Youngstown Warren Regional Chamber, can you explain to them what you guys do here?
That's a lot. Chambers of Commerce provide typical services across the board in terms of business services. So we provide events where businesses can do business-to-business networking. We do some expense reduction programs. So we provide a discount on healthcare, on workers' compensation, on energy costs. So lots of things to reduce your bottom line, improve your profits. And we do some other standard stuff like ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings. And that's most chambers will do all of those things. We do a lot more than that here. We have an economic development division that helps companies locate here, helps companies that are already here to expand. In that sense, we are a partner with the state of Ohio and its economic development agency, which is called Jobs Ohio. If you think locally about large corporations like Altium Cells and Foxconn and companies like that, Trumbull Energy Center, uh, TJX Home Goods Distribution Center, we would work with those companies to get them their incentives, help them find their property, help them gear up to get their workforce, all those things. We also have a government affairs division. So we lobby on behalf of our businesses to reduce their regulations, reduce their taxes, and also some sort of micro lobbying things that come up through the bureaucratic process. So when our companies have problems with the government, we're usually able to untangle those problems pretty swiftly. We also advocate on behalf of the community in our government affairs division. So changing the landscape for the economy, helping with policies that are favorable to us, helping with getting grants from the state and federal government to help our community. And we take on a lot of community initiatives as well. We have a spectrum of leadership programs to develop the next generation of leaders. We have a Center for Nonprofit Excellence to help nonprofits thrive. We've taken up with our partners an effort to grow the community's population, change the community's image, improve the community's housing stock. So there's a wide spectrum of things that we do here for the community.
That's awesome. Wow. So if a local business, new or existing, wants to get involved and wants to be a part of the chamber, how would they do so?
So contact us, and we're easy to find either online by phone or through me or any of our representatives. And we'd be happy to sit down and talk about the value of a membership and how also your membership dues go towards uplifting the entire community.
So, how many businesses would you say are a part of the chamber?
We have almost 3,000 members. Most of those are in the Mahoning Valley, but our membership actually goes across about 22 counties and 14 states. Um, uh, so that makes us the third largest chamber of commerce in Ohio,
Wow.
even though we're nowhere near the third largest city. But we've just provided a great menu of services for members, and we've also done some outstanding things for the community, and people like want to be part of that.
You talked a little bit about how you guys do work with other nonprofits in the area. So, what does your regional chamber foundation do? Additionally, speaking on that.
So we just this year we started the Center for Nonprofit Excellence. One of the things that we've identified as a shortcoming in the nonprofit industry, and we see that here especially, we have executive directors of nonprofit who are outstanding at delivering their mission or fulfilling their mission, passionate about that mission, but not necessarily experts at running a business. And the bottom line is the nonprofit is still a business. It might be a nonprofit business, but that's still a business.
Right.
So we want to make sure that they have all of the tools necessary to successfully run their business so they can focus on the mission and not focus so much on surviving financially. We've also noticed that a lot of members of nonprofit boards of directors are sort of in the same classification where they're passionate about the mission, excellent at helping fulfill that mission, but not necessarily good board members in the sense of knowing how to read a financial statement, understanding the importance of insurance and HR and cybersecurity and a lot of the responsibilities that go with being a board member. So part of what we want to do is help cultivate a generation of leaders that can fulfill some board seats throughout the community. And then we also want to help the nonprofits find money. And there are lots of business planning that we can assist with. And there's also some grant writing and identification of how to tap into some large national sort of philanthropic organizations for grants that aren't being tapped into right now.
Right. It's funny you were talking about that because when I was younger, I wanted to start my own nonprofit, and I'm so happy. I'm like, oh, this will be easy. And there's like, you got a board, you have finances, all these things you talked
Yeah.
about that you don't really think of because you have that mission. And you're like, that's all I'm thinking about. And there's these components to it that you have to as well thrive in as well that you mentioned.
Yeah, and we've noticed too sometimes what we call mission creep. So it seems to be the right thing to do at the time, and so you start to do it, but it doesn't fit with what the founders of the organization created the organization for in the first place.
Right.
And if you don't do things the right way, you take some risks in terms of your IRS nonprofit status because you're not doing what the founders said you should be doing, what the IRS is giving you the nonprofit status to do, what it's giving your donors a tax break on. So we want to help with governance as well with our nonprofits.
It's awesome. So when you spoke at the 20 under 20 mentorship program, people talked about wanting to leave this area because of opportunities elsewhere. What insight would you give to young people that are saying they want to leave because there's no opportunities, or even people that go away to college and might other find opportunities and eventually don't come back to the area?
Yeah, well, the grass always looks greener on the other side. And that might have been the case here for a long time, but it's not the case currently. There are enormous opportunities here to have a great career in a lot of different high-level careers, professions, and a lot of job growth here. In fact, we're creating way more jobs than we have the people to produce those jobs or to fill those jobs. So great opportunities here, especially in engineering, in software development, in advanced manufacturing, which is very high tech. And so it's not so much the message to young people as it is to actually older people. We need to see more parents, teachers, guidance counselors to stop telling kids that they need to lead to be successful, because you don't. You're much better off being right here in many cases. The cost of living is low, salaries are very competitive, and the job creation that we're experiencing right now is significant.
So you're saying it's the influence of people on those kids telling them that you have to go elsewhere. It's not really the kids, you think?
Yeah, I mean, the
Yeah.
kids are learning it from somebody,
Right.
and we've noticed it ourselves that lots of times we'll hear from folks that, oh, my college professor or my high school guidance counselor told me that to really be successful at the career I chose, I need to be somewhere else. And I'm
Right.
like, well, no, you don't. You can actually do much better here than you can in some of the bigger cities where the cost of living is so much higher, where there are a lot more inconveniences that you might not find very compelling, especially when it comes time to raising a family. Um, this is a very nice place to be.
Yeah. I agree. Contrary, I guess, a little bit. There are people my age, and I know we talked that it's maybe the older people's influence on them, but still, the younger people that want to stay and that want to make the valley a better place. What message would you give to them, and what could they be doing to help getting this area, to a place that people want to
So I
be?
think I think you can help with that, and others like you that have that same mindset. Because one of the things that we want to do is create a bank of people who can deliver testimonials about why they chose to stay here, why they chose to come back here after they left, or if they're not from here, why they decided to stay here after they got here. And actually, we've taken that up as one of our primary areas of focus in 2024. Our number one area of focus in 2024 is growing the population. But in order to grow the population, we have to change the image of the community to compel people to want to be here. And so we'll be focusing on changing that image through a whole variety of messaging across lots of different platforms. But one of them will ultimately be that we want people like you to deliver testimonials for us.
That's awesome. So I know you have only been president and CEO here for a couple of years, but what is something that you are very proud of?
Wow, that's a great question. So I think one of the things probably, um, I guess two things. One is very proud of the team that I built. Um, when I took over, I think we had 8 people, and next year we'll have 20.
Wow.
Um, and the chemistry of the people here that work together, it's like a family. The talent that is here, and therefore what we're able to accomplish is beyond what I expected. Um, so that's probably number one on my list. We've really hired some great people and then integrated them well because of the people that were already here. And then number two, I guess, would be the external relationships that we have been able to build from here all the way to Washington. Um, the community historically has been pretty siloed with organizations and governments and businesses just focused internally on themselves and not working well together. And that's completely changed in the last couple of years. So key organizations that we partner with, like the Western Reserve Port Authority, the Youngstown Foundation, Eastgate Council of Governments, and even local governments like our two county seats, Warren and Youngstown, we've come together like never before. I think we were a big catalyst in making that happen. And then our relationships in Columbus with the governor's office, our relationships in DC with our congressional delegation, I think those are better than they've been since I can remember. So the community now is sort of moving in one direction with a singular vision to become a great place once again. I think we had a lot to do with that. So that's high on my list of what I'm proud of.
I agree. So you talked about goals going into 2024, and you mentioned population growth. What would another goal be that you have and the company has?
Well, to support the population growth, we need to change the image. So I mentioned that. And so changing that image is a goal. In order to accommodate population growth, we need to increase our housing stock. So that's become a very high priority for us. And with our partners at Eastgate, we brought in a couple of organizations, the investment firm from Philadelphia, the Greater Ohio Policy Center from Columbus, and they're working together and putting together a housing strategy for us so that we can grow the housing stock. So those are right there as the probably the highest priorities for us right now. Um, and they all kind of go together. The other thing, and I mentioned this before, but we really put an emphasis on leadership development. We really want to see the next generation of leaders emerge in this community. Um, so this year we relaunched Leadership Mahoning Valley, um, and we'll continue to maintain that. And then next year we'll relaunch Youth Leadership Mahoning Valley, which is focused on high school. And we'll also do something around young professionals, or what we call emerging leaders. And then there'll be a whole continuum of leadership development in the community, so that when I'm gone, I'm handing it off to somebody, and all my peers are handing things off to others who are better capable or more capable than us to make this community a better place.
Doing a lot of great things here. It's good to hear. You mentioned the population growth and trying to accommodate that growth with housing. Has the chamber been involved in the Peninsula project and
Yeah.
or going forward with that?
Yeah, the Peninsula Project has been an exciting one for us. So probably a year or so ago, when we first heard that the governor was going to put $500 million into the Appalachian Community Grant Program, we really focused on that opportunity. And we're tying it into revitalizing the Mahoning River. I'm very proud that in the last probably 5 years that we've been able to make enormous progress revitalizing the river, so that it's 23 miles of unobstructed kayaking and canoeing with different areas to launch, but ultimately some housing along the river.
Right.
And the peninsula is probably the best, or not probably, it is definitely the best spot on the entire Mahoning River to produce or create a mixed use development around that. So um, we hit send on our application about 3 weeks ago. We're hoping to get tens of millions of dollars, perhaps even $100 million or so, on this effort to grow the population and grow the workforce around our revitalized river and everything connected to it. And the key project on the river is going to be the peninsula. That's an exciting opportunity
That's
for
great.
Warren.
Yes, it is. That when I would read about things like that, it's gets me excited to see the future of Warren and for
Yeah, we need to get people to think a little differently about housing, though, because one of the things that we've learned is historically the community put a lot of value on what we call minimums, and so the belief is that a minimum square foot house, a minimum acreage lot, a minimum distance away from your neighbors all increases the property value, and there was a time when that is true. But the modern workforce, the millennials and the younger generations don't want that. They don't want to take care of a big home. They don't want to take care of a big yard, and they want walkable communities where I'm very close to the bar, I'm very close to the restaurant.
right.
I'm even maybe walkable to work, and there's value in mixed use around single family homes, apartments, condos, all being in a clustered area. That's a whole different way of thinking for this community in all the townships and cities in our community. And so part of what we're going to have to do when this housing study is complete is to get the community to embrace that concept of growth.
It's awesome. How do you've got that project going on, you've got projects in Youngstown. How do you balance it all?
Talent. There's a lot of talent here. Like I said before, we've hired some great people, and we have great partnerships out in the community. So it's certainly not all the chamber. So internally here, there are some great people that are stepping up or have stepped up into key leadership roles, and we continue to grow our team here. And then other organizations that have partnered with us are playing critical roles, and they all have incredible talent that they've been able to bring on. So, yeah, it's a community effort, so that eases the burden. It's not on me or not on the chamber.
Your vision for the future here in the Mahoning Valley. I know you talked about it a little bit. How would you want to change this negative narrative, this negativity that's been associated with Youngstown? What would you say, and what would your vision be?
So, the media plays a big role in that. Um, and so we need to make sure that we're doing our part, that the media has the information to disseminate the good stuff that's happening here. Because there is a lot of good stuff here. If you look at some of the recent studies that have come out, think it was U.S. News and World Report that said we're the 9th best community in the United States to retire in. Number 1 most affordable place in the U.S. to retire in. USA Today ranked us the 62nd best place in the country to live in, out of 150 of the largest communities in the U.S. Deloitte came out with some interesting stats. 2020 to 2021, our population grew. We saw our poverty rate go down by a decent amount, 2%. The educational attainment increased, the number of people with bachelor's and master's degrees here. Another really cool stat that I like to talk about that's pretty recent, I think this was in USA Today, but we're number 1 in the country, I think, in terms of the percentage of millennials that own their own homes.
Wow.
So the key demographic of our current and future workforce is making decisions of permanence to be here.
Right.
So all good trends. We need to make sure that we're shouting that so that those trends just sort of build off of each other.
Yes.
We need to make more people aware. We talk about what attracts young people here, and we talk about quality of life, and that's great and all that stuff. But really, the number 1 attraction of young people is young people. And so those stats about our millennials making decisions of permanence here, the information about us having a good leadership program, especially an emerging leaders program, we need to get that information out to other young people so that they know that this is a place for them to be.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for all you guys do here for the Mahoning Valley and on. Appreciate you coming on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.